The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and good day to all. So welcome to our webinar on how to use the BCH Management Centre for BCH Central Portal National Authorized Users Management. So we will bring you to the details on how the NAUs will be managed, how they will be created, specifically also dealing with the interaction between the National Focal Point and the National Authorized Users as regards the registration of information in the BCH. Okay. So let me again introduce myself. So you can see me on screen. Again, good day. And I am actually Ruel Maningas, one of the BCH regional advisors, and I'm specifically in charge of Asia, at the same time helping also other regions and in some other non-country projects. So we will start the session in a few minutes from now. Okay. Okay, so again, let me tell you the title of our webinar for today. This is under the BCH or Biosafety Clearing House Project Phase 3, how to use the BCH Management Center for BCH Central Portal National Authorized Users Management. Okay, so I am your presenter. As I mentioned a while ago, I am a regional advisor. You can see on the slide my contact addresses. So my email is rbmconsult@gmail.com. My Skype is Ruel Maningas. And you can see also my telephone number. Let me also remind you with some guidelines as regards this webinar. So this webinar actually will be recorded for later publishing as part of the BCH Educational Materials. So kindly note that as this will be recorded, if you do not want to be recorded, please maintain your microphone muted and don't share your screen. We also would like to highlight that when participating in this webinar, you understand and implicitly accept this. At the same time, webinar participants' opinions and concepts expressed during this webinar do not reflect the UN Environment official position about any aspect. So in any case, the official word about any aspect related to the Cartagena Protocol should be requested only from the UN Environment Authorized Official Organization, which is the Secretariat to the Convention of Biological Diversity. Okay, so how do we handle this webinar? So first, I would be giving you some brief introduction to the BCH project, including the virtual learning environment. And immediately after that, so we will proceed to the main part of this webinar, which is on the topic, how to use the BCH Management Center for BCH Central Portal Management of the National Authorized Users. And immediately after I presented the slides, then I'm going to have some demonstration, and then after that, we will entertain already questions from the attendees. Okay, for the introduction about the BCH III project, this is actually a UN Environment and Global Environment Facility joint venture. The specific title is Project for Sustainable Capacity Building for Effective Participation in the Biosafety Clearing House, or simply BCH Phase 3. It is actually a global project with 76 participating countries. So the objective of the project is to continue assisting eligible countries in order to strengthen their national capacities to effectively access and use the BCH, as well as promoting regional and sub-regional collaboration, networking, and exchange of experience, both for national and regional BCH management. So you could see that it's actually establishes specific rules and procedures that are applicable to the transboundary movement of specific categories of LMO. And that is basically what do we have when we talk about the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. Now, for the different project components, let me highlight the 5 of them. So the first one is component 1, which is about global and sub-regional networking and knowledge sharing of information. And the second one is the component 2, which is the production of Biosafety Clearing House educational packages in all 6 UN languages as appropriate, as well as the provision of virtual educational tools. Component 3 is more on strengthening and sustaining the Biosafety Clearing House regional advisor system in order to support parties for the effective participation to the BCH. Component 4, on the other hand, is more on providing assistance to government officials, decision makers, as well as key stakeholders in order to enhance their understanding and, where appropriate, appreciation of what should or must be placed in the Biosafety Clearing House. And the last component is on sustainability and awareness of the Biosafety Clearing House and national databases in coordination with the United Nations agencies and other information sharing initiatives on biosafety. Please note that this webinar is produced in the context of component 2 of the project. So this is part of the educational tools that we are sharing in order to provide learnings in reference to the BCH and CPB also. Okay. So we have also, as part of the project, we have this virtual learning environment, which you can access by clicking this URL or the website. The BLE is actually a tool to make all the BCH learning objects accessible to different target audiences. It includes a variety of pre-developed training materials, such as manuals, interactive training software, case studies, and curricula for different stakeholders. So the training materials are actually organized as virtual courses over which customized national and regional training solutions can be built. So later on, I will show you this particular platform. Okay, so when you access the BLE, you just have to follow the instruction in the homepage to create a new account. So you can actually register to the BLE to get access by sending an email to the admin at ble.un.org. So you should clearly indicate your name, your surname, and your country in the submitted email. Again, you can email it to admin@bch3-un.org. Now for our topics for today's webinar. So first, we will have some discussion on registering information in the BCH and to also highlight the National Focal Point role. So what are these National Authorized Users all about? Where can we find detailed guidelines for national focal points about how to manage NAUs? And also, after that, we will have some demonstration about how to create and manage NAUs. And we'll show you also, as a recap, the flow of information between NAU and NFP. There will also be demonstration with regards to the interaction of the two stakeholders. And then we'll entertain some questions. Okay, to start. So in terms of national information registering in the BCH, okay, so you would note that there are registered user requirements. And also we will be discussing the differences among BCH information categories, so between national and reference users. What is the role of the national focal point? Is basically the NFP is a country delegate for the BCH. She or he is the only one who can validate national information to be published in the BCH. Framework, there may be other institutional arrangements. So while we have this as a standard arrangement, so the National Biosafety Framework of different countries may vary. Okay, so who are the National Authorized Users? These are BCH registered users that in a country's context may collaborate to input national information in the BCH. So they actually work in coordination with the national focal point. So with such a role, they may input information in the BCH, but please take note that this will only be published once validated by the national focal point or the NFP. But there's no limit in the amount or to the amount of NAUs per a country. For some more facts, why could it be interesting for us? We all know that size of information to be registered in the BCH could be very large, especially like risk assessment, decisions, communications, and other information, national information. As such, it may require inputs from several different institutions. And it is common for countries to have several different competent national authorities or CNA. Each one is responsible for different aspects related to LMOs. As such, the NFPs may not be a specialist in all the application fields. And in addition, some possible scenarios would be country have several CNAs and one or more NAU in each one of them. Also, there exists maybe one centralizing institution that validates information for the BCH. In particular, if NFP would be located in this place, but still requires information provided by different national institutions. Also, there are several national biosafety experts, and it is convenient that they input their assignment reports in the BCH by themselves for further validation. Some more possible scenarios. So a country decision on LMO may require information from different CNAs. Also, with regards to the national participation to the BCH, the country also has a biosafety website built using Hermes SCBD tool. So we desire to appoint also administrators and editors to handle it. So this particular task can be assigned also to a particular NAU. And there may be other situations depending on the national framework as well as some inter-institutional collaboration if needed. So what do we do then? So the question is, how can we help multiple agencies and the BCH NFP to collaborate in registering information in the BCH? How can we assign roles for administering and editing national biosafety websites, especially those that is built with Hermes, to existing or new users? And the answer is BCH Management Centre, National Authorized Users. So they are really instrumental in the BCH registration of information, in particular those national information or national records. For us to be guided about this particular task of managing NAUs or the National Authorized Users, there are available training resources that you can find in the BCH and also in the BCH virtual learning environment that I mentioned a while ago. So aside from the BLE, you can also visit the manual on registering information in the BCH. You can actually download this from the BCH Central portal under the training materials. There are also exercises, specifically this case study 3, and this can also be found in our BCH Central portal under training materials. And for us to also practice registering information, as well as simulating the interaction or the exchange of information between the National Focal Point and the National Authorized Users. So we have also the help section and the training side. Okay. So there are some important disclaimer. Okay. So in the training side, please note that the institutions and persons' names are fictitious. Okay. So later on, I'll show you some demonstration on how to log in on the BCH training sites. But the focal points could actually do this with the real site. Okay. So later on, this particular instruction, I am going to demonstrate so you could see how we do it. Okay, so just an example, let's suppose a certain national biosafety framework structure where we have the national focal point from the Environment Ministry, and there are also competent national authorities such as health, agriculture, foreign affairs, and so on. So if the users are already registered, so we can assign them roles as NAUs. So if not, then we can create the users right from here. So we could actually edit roles or dismiss the NAUs that we have registered. Okay, so for the NFP NAU interaction, it is important that you have your valid and active email addresses. Okay, because the email is crucial in terms of signing up and also in terms of signing in when you're already a registered user. So under the information registering, so we will answer some question about how does the NAU input information? So how does it send it to the NFP for validation and publishing? What can the NFP do if the information is not complete or correct? And when will this information be published in the BCH? So more details about the registration will be presented in the next webinar. So we will have another one on October 24. It's basically more details about registering national and reference information in the BCH. So we will not discuss much of it. So what we will focus in this webinar is on the interaction between the NFP and NAU as regards registering information in the BCH. Okay, so this is a particular framework or structure that shows the interaction between and among the stakeholders in the BCH registration process. So you could see here that before you could actually enter the BCH Center portal and you could get an account, and if you have already the account, so you could access the registering information section, and then you could log into the Management Center, And then you could see there that just to give you some direct interaction between the two key players, the national, NFP, and the NAU, you could see that if it's a national record that you register, so if you're a NAU, then your record would be forwarded to NFP for validation. So once it is validated by the NFP, then it will be published in the BCH. If not, then it would go back again to the process of, for example, gathering all necessary information if there are changes that need to be done or if there are modifications. The NFP can also cancel the publication request. So once it is canceled by the NFP, so the information is not published. And another one is if you are if the user would publish reference record, it will be forwarded to SCBD for validation. So if it is validated, then it will be directly published on the BCH. If not, then the same process, it would not be published, or SCBD could also cancel the publication request. Okay, so let us have some review of the presented key points. So how many NAUs can we appoint? So there's no limit in terms of the NAUs. Is it also possible to specify which source of information can be edited by a certain NAU? Yes, it is. So NAU cannot register focal point because it's actually being nominated by the country, and the SCBD is the one registering such information. Can an NFP completely delete a record generated by the NAU? NFP, I'll show you later on, NFP can actually cancel the record in the BCH Center portal. Okay, so before we proceed to the question and answers, so let me give you some demonstrations on the NAU management. Okay, so first, let me show you first the one that I mentioned is actually the okay. So here, so let's have now our demonstration. Okay, so this is actually an example of the virtual learning environment. I already logged in, so here you can actually check some materials, educational materials. So you could see here there are already webinars here, webinars announcement about the upcoming webinars, and also recorded webinars. You could see it there. There are also BCH training where you can find different training materials customized to the national or regional workshops, okay, and so forth and so on. So this is an example of the virtual learning environment that the BCH is using for keeping up educational materials as well as managing the different courses. Okay, now let's go back to the BCH Center portal. Let us now demonstrate the NFP NAU interaction as well as the management of the National Authorized Users. So here you have to go to the training site of the BCH. Okay. Okay. So here is where you can actually log in your user account. So I'll log in my account, and then you have the password. This is basically if you're already a BCH user, so you can have this already immediately access the training site. Okay, so I'm going to type my password. Okay, so this is the training site, and in the training site you just have to select a training space. So let's check the public BCH training. Okay, now I will select, for example, Malaysia as the government. Okay, and I'm going to choose this role. So I am the BCH National Focal Point. So just click it. Okay, so you could see here that since I am a BCH National Focal Point, you could see here under administration that there is the National Focal Point has access to the restricted section. So meaning this is not visible for other BCH users. So it contains the link to, as you can see here, National Authorized Users, as well as extend administrator roles for Hermes National Node, if it is applicable. So when you click this one, okay, so you could see underneath is you have here already fictitious names. These are simulated as National Authorized Users. So what we will do as a National Focal Point is we will add Authorized User. Okay, just click it. Okay, so when you click that one, okay, so you just have to, so in order to create a NAU or National Authorized Users, you just have to enter the email address of the person on the space provided. So for example, I'm going to enter this email address. Okay, so after you enter that email address, then you just click the search button. So if this data or appear on the screen, so meaning this person is already a BCH user. So as you can see, the system automatically searches that particular name which owns this Gmail. Okay, so so you can see if the email address you provided yields a match, you may now proceed by clicking the proceed with nomination, okay, button. So you can see I'm going to click it. Okay, so let's just okay, so you could see in the actual BCH Center portal, so not the training site, the name of that person would appear here. So all you have to do as a National Authorized User is to select the roles. You may click this one, all, or if he is also considered as your Hermes administrator, you may also click that. So after you selected the specific roles, okay, now you have to, so these are basically the roles with corresponding checkboxes, okay. So you can also modify this one later on. But for example, if you are done with this, you have already assigned the roles, you can just click proceed with changes. Okay. So please note on the screen, you could see that the message is you would have successfully completed the creation, update, or deletion of a National Authorized Users. So since we are on the training site, you cannot see it on the screen. Okay, you can see it on the portal. But in the actual one, that would be added in the list like this one. So supposedly there is another one here. But since we are on the training site, we cannot see it. Now, to remove the NAU from the list, okay, all you have to do is to click the delete button, like for example this one, okay, and you could see there is this particular message that you're about to delete. So if you're going to delete that, you just proceed. If you don't want, just click cancel. So at this point, we would not delete the NAU. So just click cancel. Okay, so let us check again. Okay, so another side of managing National Authorized Users is, for example, a user is not yet registered. So let me just give you one example. Okay. So again, same process. So you could see, meaning the email is not associated with any of the users. So in such a case, so you could see that we will search it, and you could see there's no particular data that appear on the screen. So meaning the assumption is this person doesn't have any user account yet. So we will still proceed with nomination. Okay. So let's just wait. Okay. So in this case, the new user will be asked to confirm her participation and complete contact details. So the user will be notified. So after notification, so he or she will be completing the details to be able to be a user, and then just proceed again with the nomination, and it would be considered already as an NAU. It will be part of the NAU of a particular country. Okay, so this is okay. So we just write the name. Okay, sample, and then you assign just the same. You just assign the role. Okay, and then you proceed with changes. So you see that we successfully completed the creation of the National Authorized Users. Again, as mentioned before, we are on the training site, so we cannot see this name. Okay. Now, for the interaction between the National Focal Point and the National Authorized Users, so my role now is a National Focal Point. So I am going to check the records being published by the National Authorized Users. Okay, so let me, okay, so wait for a while. Okay. Okay, so there is this another screen where I am a National Authorized User. The other one is my role is a National Focal Point. So let's try registering a new record. Okay. Okay. So you could see we will simulate registering national record. So let me just show you. Okay. So for example, as a National Authorized Users, I will register National Biosafety website or database. So wait for a while. Okay. 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 So let us click this icon, meaning when you click this one, you are submitting the record online. But if you click the other one, so you are doing it offline. So as an example, so let us try to register record here. So for example, I'm going to enter this one. Okay. Okay. Let me go to another example. Okay. Let us register a Biosafety website. Okay. For a simple presentation. Okay. For example, I'm going to type here Biosafety Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources dot or dot or dot ml. Okay, so we have the description. So this is the biosafety website. Biosafety website. Okay, and okay, so let us add the website. So for example, so we have the same biosafety. Okay, biosafety at menr.org.ml. Okay, so then save it. Okay, so you can proceed to page 2 or you can review the page 1. So at this point, let us proceed to page 2. Okay, and so let's just put this as a test. Okay, so now let's add a website for this one, or no need, so we just save the changes. Okay, so you could see here that you could submit the NAU can submit the record for publishing. Okay, and the screen would prompt that the record is for pending approval. Okay, now let's check the side of the National Focal Point, and we can see there that okay, so we now check. So we check the status of the record. So you could see at the bottom that there is one record that is pending approval. All you have to do is to click the record. Okay, so the record is still new. Okay, and you could see the NFP could either approve, cancel, or request changes. Okay, so we would not approve it yet. So let's try to request changes. Okay. Okay, so this just as an example, some details on the description of the website. Okay, then just click continue. Okay, so you can see there is a change in the status. Now it is changes requested. Okay, so now let's go to the NAU side. Okay, so let's just refresh it. Okay, so you can see now the NAU can see the status change requested. So in such a case, so he could actually modify the record and proceed with the changes. Okay, so for example, we would add this. This is the concern of the NFP to provide more details. So we could say that it is, for example, official biosafety web portal of Malaysia. Okay, so after that, then we could again save changes and submit again for publishing. Okay. Okay. So at this point, okay, you could see on the part of the National Authorized Users. So let's try to check now. So let's proceed to the National Focal Point. Okay. And then let's see below and click the record. So now the National Focal Point, after the changes has been made, can approve the record. Okay, so when you go again to the NAU side, okay, so just refresh it and you can see that the record is already published. Okay, so now I think that's all. So let us proceed with the question and answer portion of the session. Okay.
Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I'm Ernesto Ocampo. I work with the UN BCH III Project, also as a colleague with Ruel. Thank you, Ruel, very much for your presentation. I just wanted to make one comment. It's about all this workflow of information between the National Authorized User and the National Focal Point goes straight using the email addresses that the National Focal Point has registered and the National Authorized User has registered. I mean, what happens actually is that when the National Authorized User submits a record for validation by the National Focal Point, the National Focal Point will receive an email in her or his usual email tool with a link to the pages that you have just seen. That means we don't need to be looking at the BCH all the time. We just will receive an email with a link to the corresponding pages in the BCH website. Of course, we will have to log in to be able to manage the records. But that's an important part. And the second part is that all this exchange of information is secure, and it's backed up by the servers of the Secretariat, where all the BCH resides.
Yeah, I'd like to support that statement, Dr. Ernesto Ocampo, that really the interactions between the two are secured. So it is guaranteed by the system. So there would be no other entities that would interact between the interactions. That we can say. Okay. Thank you, Ernesto.
You're welcome.
Are there some more questions or clarifications as regards the presentation?
Hi, Ruel. Alexei is here.
Hello, Alexei.
Yes, from Belgrade. Just as a clarification, all the process that you described of interaction between the focal point for BCH and National Authorized User is valid in case of national records. In a case of referent record, it goes directly to the Secretariat.
Yes. So, for example, so we have this general users. If the general users would register records, so as you can see on the flowchart, it would go directly to the SCBD. SCBD, the Secretariat, is the one who would validate it. And if they found the information right and useful to be published, then they will validate it, and then it will be published on the BCH Center portal. Now, there are some cases, for example, that the National Authorized Users or the BCH focal point would be, for example, registering news. Okay, so it will be immediately published on the central portal. Okay, so we had that case already in some countries that when we register news, for example, as a reference record, so when BCH focal point registers it, then it will be directly published on the central portal. Okay.
Thank you for this clarification about focal point, that it goes directly without verification from Secretariat.
Yeah. So we had that experience already in our workshops. So it happens also. But of course, if the national authorized users or the general users would be the one publishing news, it would pass through the Secretariat. Okay. Any more concerns and clarifications from the panelists, from the attendees? Okay. Okay, so so if there are no more questions and clarifications, so again, thank you very much for your participation, and we look forward to having you once again in our next webinar, and that will be, there are a series of webinars that we will be offering. So in particular, related to this one, so we will have another one on October 24. Same time, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock GMT. So, and we will gladly, of course, welcoming you to be part of it. Again, thank you very much, and have a nice day.